Adrian, I know you're here to check and make sure that things are working. Thank you. Alone, welcome. Eugene, welcome. Good to see you here. Javier, pleasure as always. Ricky. Whoop, I'm hearing my own voice in the background because YouTube just went live. Ricky, pleasure as always to see you, mate. Robert, you know how amazing you are. Stefan, Todd, welcome. Glad that you're here. We're going to give it a couple of minutes before we get kicked off. Whether you're watching us on Zoom or on YouTube, welcome. Your participation is what makes a release interesting, and your questions are what make this particular conversation fun. I love hearing Alexei talk about features. I love hearing Alexei think through the problems that you raise. So as we go along, if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand, whether you're on Zoom or YouTube. Drop the question in chat, and we'll get kicked off here in just a moment or two. While we're waiting, Alexa, I'm going to go ahead and tweet that we are live on YouTube.
Yeah, good idea. Nice to see so many people online in Zoom. And how many? Okay, I will not ask how many do we have on YouTube, because people are still joining.
Precisely.
Did you post a link to our Telegram channel?
Nope, posted it in one spot. Now I can drop it in Telegram right now if you'd like.
Okay.
Let me do that.
And we will start in 3 minutes.
3 minutes. That must mean you have a fair bit of features to cover with us today, Alexa.
As usual.
As usual. It's a new month, right? It's a new month, a new release, a new stack of features. I think my favorite slide every single time is what I call the quantity slide. The one that's like, here's how many performance improvements, here's how many bugs are fixed, here's how many new features. I love it. It just makes me feel pretty confident in the work that the engineering team is doing every single month.
Doesn't it look boring? Like 50 new features. Again, what else?
Maybe half of it is, I think, oh dear God, I have so much to learn. Awesome. Well, I'm continuing to see people join on all channels. We said hi to a number of folk. I'm trying to see. Yeah, there's many who've joined, but it's difficult for me to tell who I said hi to before and who I didn't. So a general then, welcome to all of you. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a moment. There's an internal debate at ClickHouse. And the internal debate at ClickHouse is, what even is this thing that we do monthly? Is it a release call? Is it a community call? Is it a release webinar? I personally hate the term webinar because it sounds like someone is trying to sell me something, and instead we're trying to talk about something interesting. So when you think about this, whether you're watching it now on Zoom, whether you're with us on the YouTube channel that continues to have people join, I'd love your feedback. I'm Tyler at ClickHouse. When you think about this call, do you think about it as a community call? Do you think about it as a release call? Or do we think about it as something different? I don't know. I have this sort of visceral reaction to the term webinar. But with that said, I would also be remiss if I didn't use the time to put on my marketing hat for a second, also community hat, and say, hey, there's a whole stack of meetups that are happening perhaps near you very soon. Go to meetup.com/pro/ClickHouse. Yeah, meetup.com/pro/ClickHouse, and check out a sprint demo. I like that term. And check out the meetups that are coming up near you. We have one in Amsterdam on March 9th. We will be together in physical proximity, or what some of us may inappropriately call meet space, on March 15th in the Bay Area, and then March 16th, or 14th, sorry, and then March 16th in Austin. So check out what I just dropped in chat, meetup.com/pro/ClickHouse. If there are meetups that you would like to see in your area, let me know. Again, I'm Tyler at ClickHouse, and we are interested in coming and sharing our story with you. So we're at time. And with that said, this is the v23.2 release, whatever term we're going to give it in the future. Release event with impressive demonstration of new features is what came in on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those who continue to trickle in, or if you're watching this on the video after, thank you immensely for joining us. I'm super excited to share with you what the team has been up to over the last month. So that, Alexei, please share the amazing things that are in the 23.2 release with us.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen. So this is ClickHouse Release 23.2. What do we have today? As usual, I will spend almost all time, if not all the time, telling you about what is new in the release. And maybe, if we will be lucky, we will have about 10 minutes for questions. So this is ClickHouse Winter Release. It has 18 new features, 30 performance optimizations, and 43 bug fixes. So what about the new features? What about SQL compatibility, the new language support? Let's start with something pretty small, but maybe not so easy to understand, but I will try to do my best. We have a new window function named NTILE or NTILE. How do you prefer? I prefer to say NTILE. You can use it like this. Write the number of buckets as an argument, like 4 buckets. If you use it with 4 buckets, you can name it quartile. If you use it with 100 buckets, you can name it percentile. And you write quite a long and scary window definition. It looks like this: order by, and this strange SQL standard stuff, rows between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. Actually, I don't like this unnecessarily SQL standard stuff, so maybe it will be unneeded to specify. And what it will do, it will split the data, assign it to this number of buckets. 4 buckets. We have calculated, we have used here a table with the recording of every home sold in the UK. And we group by county and calculate the average price for every county and order by this average price. So what is the most expensive county in the UK? Obviously, London. Okay, let's scroll down. This is the first quarter of all counties. This is the second quarter of all counties. Sorry, I don't know geography, especially geography of the UK, but let's try to find something interesting. What is Wrecking? What a strange name. It is in the 3rd quartile. Okay, what is the cheapest county in the UK? This one. I will not pronounce it because I don't know how to pronounce this, but this is the cheapest county in the UK, and its name sounds a bit French for some reason, at least to me. Okay, pretty easy. What else? Correlation matrix function. It is an aggregate function very similar to correlation. With correlation, you specify two arguments, and it simply calculates the correlation between them. But if you do corrMatrix, you can specify arbitrary number of arguments, like 4, 10, whatever. And it will calculate the correlation between every pair of these arguments. So it will return a matrix. Let me first do something meaningless. This query. I like to do some meaningless stuff on my webinars. So what we will do? We will calculate a correlation matrix between one randomly distributed variable, another randomly distributed variable, and the sum of these variables and the difference between these variables. And we will use a sample of size 100,000. And we will represent this matrix will be a two-dimensional array, and with the function arrayJoin, I will translate these two-dimensional arrays to a set of records of one-dimensional arrays. And I will round these numbers. Okay, and what do we have? We have this pretty nice looking matrix with some strange numbers. The diagonal numbers are simply 1. The correlation between independent randomly distributed variables is about 0. But this number is way more interesting, 0.707. What is it? And it should be a correlation between x and x plus y. Let me ask you, why 0.707? What is it? If you can answer to this question almost instantly, in about 5 seconds, I will give you a t-shirt, like this t-shirt. Tyler, are there any answers already?
None that I see coming in so far. I happen to know that 0.707 is half the square root of 2. Yeah, Sergey just mentioned the root of 2/2.
Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly the inverse of square root of 2. So who did?
Yeah, I already have a t-shirt. So Sergey Churin on YouTube was the one who got the first answer.
Perfect. But to get this t-shirt, Sergio, you have to also provide the answer why it is the inverse of square root of 2. Why exactly? Maybe you can draw a picture. Maybe you can give some geometric explanation. Unless you will do this, no t-shirt. Okay. What else do we have? Let's try to use this function with something less meaningless. We will use the same table, UK price paid, and we will calculate the average price for every county. Again, we will group by county for different ranges of years, between 2000 and 2009, 2010 to 2019, and after 2020. We will use this average if function to do something like pivot table in ClickHouse. It is pretty nice, pretty easy to use. So I have 3 columns, P2000, P2010, and P2020. And I will calculate a correlation matrix between these 3 columns. And I will get some strange, unusual result that is difficult to explain. The correlation between 2000 and 2010 is surprisingly less than the correlation between 2000 and 2020. And I don't know why. I don't know the answer, so probably you also don't know it. But just in case, if you can guess, please post the answer in comments. Okay, another pretty strange function, generate ULID. It is similar to UUID, and we already have the function generate UUID. But some engineers decided that UUID is not good enough. Maybe it is not fashionable. Maybe it looks ugly. So they invented another universally unique identifier named ULID. And it has quite interesting properties. It is monotonic. It starts with a timestamp. Timestamp is somewhere here. Then it contains a random number. But this random number is fixed for every millisecond. Generated for every millisecond. And if you generate multiple ULIDs, they will also be incremental. So here we generated 10 ULIDs, and all of them start with the same prefix. It is 128-bit number encoded in base 32. So if you like the concept, you will find this function useful. Maybe you already using ULID in your scripts, so it will be quite handy to have it in ClickHouse. But what is the reason why we implemented this function? For what? We have implemented because you asked for it somewhere in some GitHub issue, and we did it. So please take care when you ask for something. ArrayShuffle and arrayPartialSort. Pretty easy to guess what it will do. Let me take a phrase. ClickHouse is the open source OLAP database management system. I will split it to tokens and shuffle this array. And the result is the following. Database is ClickHouse. Management. Open the OLAP system source. I like this phrase. I like it more than the original. And you can also play with this function for some reasonable things, not like I do. I'm just playing. ArrayPartialSort. What is it? It is to sort the array, but only to get the first n items in order. Other items can be unsorted, but the first 3 items in this example will be the items of the sorted array. And in this example, I also use a technique named Schwarz sort. Schwarz sort is a technique when you can sort one array by a function of its elements. And here I specify the function lower, so it will sort regardless of the case of characters. Out of band final. ClickHouse allows you to specify this special final modifier after the table name. Almost always you don't need it. But if you are using some table engines that modify the data in background on merges, like replacing merge tree, replacing merge tree will update the data during merges to the latest inserted value for the primary key. So you get updates in ClickHouse. And the final modifier will enable the merge on read logic. So in expense of some performance, some resource usage, you will get the latest records, the final values, updated values of all the records. And here is a new setting. It is named final, pretty easy. And if you enable it, it will apply final for every table in the select query, including all the subqueries, all the joined tables. Okay, I hope someone of you will have some use of this. What else? What is for observability? Now we provide performance counters, or name it profile events, in the system part log table. What is part log? It is a log about everything happening for data parts in tables. So if you create a merge tree table, you insert data into merge tree table, it will create a data part. And this creation event will be recorded. You continue inserting data into your table. And this data will be merged in the background. ClickHouse will select some parts, merge them together. And this event will also be recorded in the part log. And now you will get all the metrics about resource consumption, like the number of opened files, 194 opened files, the number of bytes read from disk, from page cache, the number of records merged. About everything, now it's easy to get this data, to analyze it. And maybe you will use it to optimize the structure of your tables, or just out of curiosity. Okay, what about performance optimizations? We have quite a lot. Let me explain the most interesting ones. The usage of partition key to optimize group by, to optimize aggregation. If you have a partition key in your table and you happen to do group by with this partition key, or group by some column that is split by different partitions by the partition key, your query will run faster. Let me try to show you how faster. I will simply copy-paste some queries from my presentation to terminal. Okay, and I will run ClickHouse server. Here it is. And let's go to the server. And let me start with my table hits. So here is my table. It has primary key, order by, but it does not have partition key. It has a lot of columns and how many records? $8 million. Yeah, 8 million. no, another table. This 99 million. I like 99 million more. It is a larger table. Okay. Let me also create another table, hits partitioned. It will have the same structure, the same engine, the same primary key, but I will also add partition key, the remainder of division of user ID. The table already exists. I already created it, so no problem. And let me also insert the data to this table, but I already inserted the data. Don't worry, I prepared for this webinar. So the data is already there, and let me try some queries. The first query, I will simply calculate how many different pages on the internet every user, each user has visited. And I order by count and take the most active users. 1 second. By the way, let me also edit it. It will be better. 0.9, 0.9 again. What will change if I will use partition table? 0.9. It did not help. Nothing changed. But actually, to enable this optimization, I have to enable this setting. It is not by default. Currently, it is not by default. You can enable it. And maybe in one of the next releases, we will make it by default. Okay, what will change? How faster this query will run? Tyler, what do you think?
I always guess way too large. So my hope is, let's say, 50 milliseconds.
50 milliseconds, maybe way too optimistic.
Yeah, but usually I guess 5 seconds. So, and then you say, don't you believe in the system that we've built?
Do you have any answers in chat? What will be interesting? Who will be the most?
We're seeing 300 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, 580, 500 milliseconds, 600. It depends on the number of partitions count, which is, it depends. It depends is always the right answer in computer science. 187 milliseconds. It also depends on the available CPU is another, and the threads, since people like to mention the areas in which it depends.
Yeah. I'm not interested in how smart you are. I'm interested how lucky you are.
0.1 seconds, 2 times faster, which is an interesting one. I like the comparison of prior performance to present performance.
0.7.
0.7.
0.7 again. It was 0.9, now 0.7. So Tyler, let's optimize to your numbers in the next version.
Okay, perfect. I look forward to it.
Okay. What else do we have? What is the next optimization? Maybe the next optimization will optimize this query further. It is about multi-stage PREWHERE. What is it about? What is PREWHERE? There is no PREWHERE in standard SQL. No other database has PREWHERE, but ClickHouse does it. I will not bother explaining. Let me instead show you the demo. Okay, so now let me try with, again, I will use my favorite table hits. And I will calculate quite complex aggregation. And I will filter only page views with page title like Google, but URL without Google, and non-empty search phrase. Let me check how quickly it will run. 0.9 seconds. Probably all the time is spent on reading. The time is very similar to the previous query. But I can make it faster. I only have to enable this optimization. Two magic settings. The first one is named Move all conditions to PREWHERE. You see there is no PREWHERE in this query. It is a normal query. But what is PREWHERE? Actually, it is not only a clause you can specify in the select query. It is also a way of reading the data. And this way of reading the data looks like this. If you have a filtering by some column, read it. Filter by this column. And continue reading other columns, but only in the places where the condition matched. So let's move all conditions to PREWHERE and also enable multi-stage PREWHERE. And it will do it iteratively. It will read the first column, filter it, read the second column, filter it, and read even less and less amount of data. Okay, interesting what the result will be. I will not ask. Let's see it. 0.5. Perfect. Much better than I expected. Yeah, it is quite stable. Let's disable this setting just for additional validation. 0.9. Yeah, pretty nice optimization. What else? IO U-ring. What is IO U-ring? It is some cryptic variable name in the source code of Linux kernel. And also it is an interface for reading the data. If you decrypt it, it will sound like user space ring buffer for input and output. Actually, it's just a magic pill to apply to make your I/O subsystem less slow or slowless. Can I say slowless? It sounds so funny. Let's check how slowless it is. Okay, let me do pretty simple query, but I will run it through ClickHouse benchmark. So in ClickHouse benchmark, I will make 10 iterations of this query in sequence. And it will show some statistics like median processing time 0.245. Let me also make one experiment. I will run I/O statistics, and it will display how many megabytes per second is read from disk. Let me run it continuously, and What do you think? How many megabytes are read from disk? Here is 40 gigabytes of uncompressed data, but disk I/O is compressed data because ClickHouse compresses the data. Okay, and the answer is 0. 0 megabytes per second is being read from disk because all the data is in page cache. Okay, it does not matter. Let me enable this magic I/O queuing and see what will change. So the median was 0.246. And now it is 0.386. So it became slower. It was a magic pill, but of different color, probably a wrong pill, but still 0 megabytes per second, almost 0, is being read. Okay, let's make sure that data is actually being read from disk. I will do it by enabling direct I/O. Let me run this benchmark. 0.300. Now I see 4 gigabytes per second read from disk. Okay, finally, let me enable again I/O queuing. It should make it faster. Finally, it should do it somehow. Maybe. Actually, it is exactly the same performance, and the same number of megabytes read from disk. So what is it about? Why do we have this feature? How should it speed up your queries? Don't worry, I know the answer. So my I/O subsystem is simply not fast enough, just 4 gigabytes per second. And if you look at TPS or I/Ops, it is just 14,000. What if you will have a server with I/O subsystem that can do 100 gigabytes per second? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. You cannot get this server in AWS, GCP, but you can get it in your basement. If you have this server, definitely try I/O queuing, and it should make the difference. And tell me what the results will be. So this is the feature for the future. Okay, now let's proceed to something interesting about Apache Iceberg. What is Apache Iceberg? Actually, it is the same as Apache Hudi and Apache Delta Lake. The same, but not quite. There are 3 different technologies, and these technologies are totally indistinguishable. And how to choose between them? I don't know. Maybe you will just run Spark or Databricks, and whatever will start working. Whatever you will continue to use. But for ClickHouse, what matters is to support just everything, every data format. If you don't like to store data inside ClickHouse, don't worry, ClickHouse will still work for you. And you will be able to query your data from Iceberg with the Iceberg table function. The usage is pretty easy. it is available as a function or as a storage engine. It works with named collections as well. And why do you need it? Because you want to query your data regardless. If your data is in S3, okay, ClickHouse will work. If it is in HDFS, it will work. If you still have your data in MongoDB, you can easily take it and insert into ClickHouse. And the same for SQLite, MySQL, Postgres. And now with Hoodie, Delta Lake, Iceberg. And these data formats are somewhat similar to merge tree. They may be modeled after merge tree. And sometimes they can approach the usability of merge tree, maybe. So let's try it. This is the instruction how to prepare the data. We need the support for these formats in ClickHouse is read-only. So to use them, you have your data already to be prepared. And you can use Spark or Databricks, data whatever. Databricks, doesn't matter. So let's download Spark. Let's install Java. Let's run Spark. Let's specify 10 different parameters with Java class names and hope that it will work. And for Delta, it worked. When I tried with Hoodie and Iceberg, something strange happened. So I get some Java error, this kind of error. You know that. This. I don't know Java. I don't know what to do with Java errors. And I have two options. Option first, copy paste it to Google. It did not help. Option second, copy paste it to ChatGPT. So I tried with ChatGPT. It provided some instructions to me how to prepare data in Apache Iceberg using Spark. I copy-pasted this instruction and they did not work. So I asked ChatGPT why it did not work. What is a mistake? And ChatGPT answered that I insulted her. So I stopped trying. Unfortunately, I did not get Iceberg working before the webinar. So we will make it working. We will melt the Iceberg in the next release. Okay, what else do we have? Dynamic disks. It allows you to simplify the configuration of disks for external or local file systems or external data sets. So how it was before? Before you can provide the full storage configuration with storage policies in the configuration file. And every storage policy consisted of volumes. And every volume consisted of disks. And how it will work? ClickHouse will place the data in the volumes in the respectful order. On the first volume, until it will be full, then on the second volume, and it will move the old data to subsequent volumes. And on every volume, it can use multiple disks. But sometimes this flexibility is just too much. And you want to make something simpler. So in the new version, you don't have to specify volumes and storage policy. You can specify just disk, like this. And even more, you don't have to specify anything in the configuration file at all. You can make the disk fully dynamic. Just provide in-place configuration, like here. All the options in line in the create table or attach table query. And this query, let me show you this query. This query actually, it is quite long, multiple columns, and billions of records. This query is being attached from a disk with type web, with some location. And what it is external data set that you can instantly query inside ClickHouse without data loading. Should I show you the demo? Because it looks like magic. Maybe just 3 minutes. Because I like this example so much. Let me copy paste this query exactly as it is. And I will use some random server. Let me first start the server. I will connect to it. It did not start. Interesting. Okay, instead I will use ClickHouse local. Probably my server is not installed, or it is some strange server with large amount of data. I will create a temporary database. And copy paste this query. It is loading, it is loaded. Let me check how many records. There are 5 billion, pretty many. Let's. The history looks pretty interesting. It is not my history. Let me query this table. And I will try to find the events from me on GitHub. Yeah, pretty fast. So this table is completely external. It is queried from HTTPS endpoint on the fly. Nothing interesting, nothing special, but for me, it looks like magic. And I like this magic. I like magic in ClickHouse. Okay, what about integrations? For Metabase, we have the first stable release 1.0.0. It is available in Metabase Cloud. So you can install Metabase on premise. You can simply go to Metabase Cloud and use it with ClickHouse. For Kafka Connect integration, now we have support for Amazon MSK, Amazon Managed Kafka, and some updates for drivers for Python, Node.js, Go, and dbt. Okay, and finally, ClickHouse Cloud. Why don't start using ClickHouse today if you don't use it yet. The most easy way to start is to start with ClickHouse Cloud. It provides free 30-day trial with $300 in credit, up to 10 terabytes of data. And there are development instances, pretty affordable, so check it out. And now we have 10 minutes for questions.
10 minutes. I'm impressed that you got through all of that content that quickly, Alexei, including the ad hoc demo. There's a number of questions that have come in. I've been grabbing them as we've gone along. If you have more, please drop them in, keeping an eye on all of the channels in which you can communicate with us. In context of PREWHERE, there was a series of questions, 3 of them, that I'm going to kind of read together because they all came together, which is, does this prevent the reading of data that does not qualify the simplest predicates? Or the sort of follow-up was how does it pick the order in which it will apply PREWHERE to columns? And then the final one was like, is there any under the hood optimization for the order of filtering? For example, would a primary key be prioritized, or is the where order explicit? So there was a little bit of clarity desired on PREWHERE.
First, it can use any conditions, even complex ones, whatever it is. Like, or maybe you calculate some hash and compare this hash to something, or you extracting some data from JSON field and also filtering by the extracted value. Whatever will be applicable for PREWHERE. How the order is selected? It is selected based on statistics. And these statistics determine the cost of reading. So we actually have some cost-based optimizer inside ClickHouse. It is quite primitive, and this statistics is simply the size of compressed data. More data to read means it takes more time to read. It is heavier, so we will select the most lightweight conditions first. Also, there are some considerations about if the function can throw exception. If it can throw exception, it will not be selected for this optimization, or maybe it will. I don't remember, but there is some consideration. Okay, and will the order of these conditions affect selection for PREWHERE? Most likely no, but maybe yes. This is the answer, but most likely no. Okay, another question.
Gotcha. Yeah. So a couple of other things on the sort of Iceberg front. The question was whether ClickHouse can use the Puffins metadata. I'm assuming the Puffins spec in Iceberg to improve query performance.
No, currently this metadata is not supported. And there is one of the first things to do to improve performance with external data, especially for reading Parquet files, because in Parquet you can have embedded indexes for minimum, maximum, for unique values. And currently ClickHouse does not take it into consideration.
Understood. Related, the question again, sort of on the Iceberg front, which I think we thought a number of people might be very interested in, is whether there's any plan to implement insert for Iceberg with ClickHouse.
Yes, yes, but no. You know, when you talk about plans, you should distinguish between plans and intentions. Yes, I want to implement insert into Iceberg. It is not going to be easy to do because the only supported language for Iceberg, if I remember correctly, is Java. We don't want to integrate Java into ClickHouse because if we will do, you are not going to like it. There is no official driver for Iceberg for C++. There is no any driver for Iceberg in C++. Not even for Rust. I don't know, maybe you like Rust. Maybe you're going to implement it. And if you will do, please tell us. Because we have nothing against Rust. We can we integrate Rust code into ClickHouse. And if this support will appear for Rust, we will take it. So please let us know.
Yeah, understood. On the front of questions, are there any plans for a Neo4j table engine, be that like Cypher or Tinkerpop, or has there been any thought put into that? Something about the roadmap, maybe?
Yeah, very interesting questions, because we did not have any feature requests, any existing feature requests for integration with Neo4j. And this is probably the first.
Yeah.
What if we will wait for a second case when someone will ask it, and if there will be two people asking for this feature, maybe your brother, maybe your sister, we will implement it.
Totally. And to the person who asked that question, who I won't call out by name because I want to respect the fact that you asked it just of hosts and panelists, GitHub issues are open, or so is our community Slack. Please feel free to start a discussion about it. Let us know about the interest so that we can begin to gauge interest across the entirety of the community. There's a couple of other questions. One, Eric, very interesting question about cloud, but I want to sort of maybe end in the last 3 minutes on a question of imagination, which makes me excited. So I'm going to present the scenario to you, Alexei. Imagine a chat GPT table engine that can generate appropriate, quote, real looking data of any topic, like geolocations or user data, point clouds, anything you need based on an engine equal chat GPT, open paren, quote, prompts, closing them, and the names and types of each column. And someone in chat replied, like, it's possible to do that with the URL table engine, but it requires users to write their own HTTP server. It would be better to have a user-defined table function for this kind of stuff, which is not implemented yet. I'd love to hear your thoughts when you imagine, Alexei, a chat GPT table engine for generating, quote fingers, real-looking data.
Actually, I already imagined it. And for user-defined table functions, we have a proposal for implementation, and it is in our actual plans to add support for external HTTPS servers for data transformation. So you will be able to pipe your data into the server that can be located inside OpenAI infrastructure or in your AWS Lambda, whatever. And it will transform the data and send it back. And this way, it will be possible to implement this chat GPT feature. The only concern, if you will use chat GPT, it is going to be slow, because this artificial intelligence stuff, it is approaching, maybe mimicking human, and humans are slow, not like ClickHouse.
I just have to repeat that quote. Humans are slow, not like ClickHouse. However, humans make up a community, and we're approaching time, so I want to be respectful of all of you who've joined. This is 23.2. It's an immense amount of work from a number of people, those who work for ClickHouse and those who work with ClickHouse. And if you read the change log, and we'll tweet it out in a moment, you'll see all of the adopters. There were a few more questions, some of which are very specific, some of which are very tangential that we may not have been able to answer. As you have more questions, as you play with this, as you curl clickhouse.com and pipe it to the shell and get the newest and greatest version off of head for you now, ask those questions. Ask them of us in the channel of your choice. If you use Twitter, ask us there. If you're on GitHub, open a discussion or an issue. Join our Slack. Let us know. We desire to have the same level of question and answer with you in every channel that exists versus just monthly in a community call. Alexei, any closing thoughts before we call it for this month?
Yeah, thank you for visiting. See you next month.
All right, excellent. Be safe all. Thank you so much.